Today we're diving into the absolute clusterfuck that is the Diddy trial, and more specifically, Cassie Ventura. 10 bloody years with Sean Combs, then suddenly she's writing tell-all lawsuits like she's Anne Frank. So the question burning hotter than a Bunnings snag is, trauma-bonded hero or 10-year opportunist? Morgan, you reckon she's some tragic princess locked in a tower?
Oh, Tessa, only you could compare domestic abuse to a fairy tale. Look, this isn't about princesses. It's about power. When Cassie met Diddy, she was what, barely out of her teens? He's a literal billionaire who could make or break careers with a phone call. That's not a relationship. That's a hostage situation with designer handbags.
Designer handbags. Exactly. She wasn't exactly living in a cardboard box, was she? Look, I'm not saying abuse doesn't happen, but let's be real here. This woman enjoyed a decade of private jets, red carpets, and being arm candy to one of the most powerful men in music. Then the moment she gets married to someone else and needs a payday, suddenly it's all, oh, I was so traumatized.
Tessa, that's like saying someone can't be drowning because they're wearing a Rolex. Do you know what trauma bonding is? Dr. Don Hughes testified that it literally rewires your brain. When someone alternates between love bombing and abuse, your nervous system gets addicted to the chaos. It's not rational.
Oh, please, don't psychoanalyze me with your fancy experts. You want to know what's not rational? Texting, I love our freak-offs when we both want it in 2017. That's not trauma talking. That's Tuesday night plans. And let's talk timing, shall we? November 2023, she demands $30 million for book rights. Gets told to piss off. 1 week later, conveniently 1 week before some Adult Survivors Act deadline, boom, lawsuit filed.
Are you seriously victim blaming right now? That hotel surveillance video from 2016 shows him literally dragging her down a hallway, throwing her to the ground.
And yet she stayed for 2 more years after that. Come on, Morgan. If my boyfriend pulled that shit, he'd be eating his breakfast through a straw. But Cassie? She's posting couples selfies and planning their next 4-day freak marathon with enough baby oil to slip and slide through the entire Hamptons.
You think it's that simple? Just leave? Tessa, this is a man who allegedly had Kid Cudi's car bombed because he was jealous. When you're dealing with someone who has that level of power and vindictiveness, leaving isn't just hard, it's terrifying. Multiple witnesses saw him hit her, kick her, crack her head open.
Multiple witnesses, right? But funny how none of these witnesses spoke up when it mattered, isn't it? They all crawled out of the woodwork once there was a payday involved. And let's not forget Sheree Hayes, one of the escorts, said everything looked consensual to her. Said Cassie appeared to enjoy the encounters.
Oh, so now we're taking the word of sex workers who were literally paid to be there? Tessa, you're smarter than this. The woman was suicidal by the end. She literally said, I didn't want to be alive anymore. That's not someone who was enjoying luxury lifestyle perks.
But that's exactly my point. She says all this now, in hindsight, when it's convenient for her narrative. Where was this despair when she was living it up for a decade? Look, I'm not saying Diddy's a saint, the man clearly has issues. But let's call a spade a spade. This woman rode the gravy train until the station changed, then decided to burn it all down for a $20 million settlement.
You know what, Tessa? I think you're half right about one thing. The timing is suspicious. But not because she's an opportunist, because that's exactly how trauma works. She finally got therapy, found a healthy relationship, had some distance, and realized, holy shit, what I lived through wasn't normal. Sometimes it takes years to even name what happened to you.
Okay. I'll give you that therapy can be a real eye-opener. But here's what I can't get past. If this was all so traumatic, so controlling, so horrific, why demand $30 million for a book deal first? Why not just go to the police? Why make it about money at all?
Because the system is broken for women like her. You think the NYPD was going to take down Sean Combs based on one woman's word? Sometimes money is the only language these men understand. Sometimes public humiliation is the only justice you can get.
All right, that actually makes some sense. But you've got to admit, Morgan, 10 years is a long time to be trauma bonded. At some point, doesn't personal responsibility come into play?
Look, I'm not saying Cassie was perfect. Maybe she did make choices that look questionable in hindsight. But when you're in survival mode, when someone controls your career, your finances, your social circle, you do what you have to do to get through each day. Even if that means convincing yourself you're okay with things that are slowly killing you inside.
Fuck me when you put it like that. Maybe we're both right. Maybe she was genuinely trapped and opportunistic. Maybe trauma and timing can coexist?
Now there's the nuanced take I've been waiting for. Truth is messier than either of our hot takes, isn't it?
Don't get all philosophical on me now, Reeves. But yeah, maybe the real question isn't whether she's a hero or an opportunist. Maybe it's why it took 10 bloody years for anyone to believe her either way.
And on that surprisingly mature note,
Oi, I can be mature. I just choose not to be most of the time. Makes better radio.
there's the Tessa we know and tolerate. All right, legends, what's your take? Trauma-bonded hero, 10-year opportunist, or something messier than both? Hit us up on socials and let us know if we're completely off our heads.